The movie opens with different spacecraft moving through the galaxy. They travel back and forth, gliding among the stars. Inside a quiet room, Mayumi molds a clay pot. She focuses intensely, shaping the clay with care. Making pottery is something she loves. It brings her peace. Naoki enters the room. He watches her for a moment, then asks her to take a break. He offers her a cup of tea. Mayumi is pleased. It's the first tea of the season from Earth. Both she and Naoki love the tea grown on Earth. It's a taste of home. Later, a space shuttle arrives at the ring, a huge, livable structure in space where humans now reside. Earth is far below. The shuttle docks and unloads supplies, essentials for life on the ring. Mayumi is there, watching the cargo unload. Suddenly, a disturbing memory hits her. She remembers blood pouring from her neck. Her face shows her fear. Naoki enters and notices her expression. He gently reminds her about their appointment with the doctor. She nods, still shaken. Together, they leave the docking area and walk down the metal hallways of the ring. They reach a large, quiet room with 2 high-tech chairs. Mayumi pauses, expressing her confusion about metaspace. She struggles to tell what's real and what's virtual. Naoki reassures her. He says she shouldn't worry too much and should try to enjoy what metaspace offers. They sit down in the chairs. A transparent screen slides down over each of their faces. A soft, whirring sound starts. They close their eyes as a dim light shines on them, and the session begins. Mayumi suddenly finds herself in a vast white building with many hallways. She feels sort of disoriented until she spots Dr. Ogasawara. Naoki has settled in a nearby area and is deep in silence. Dr. Ogasawara goes on to ask Mayumi about her health conditions. Mayumi claims to suffer from headaches, ringing in her ears, and problems related to inhalation. Dr. Ogasawara pays attention to her and infers she might be suffering from PTSD, which might have been aggravated by her amnesia. He says that it would be beneficial for her to avoid exertion and cool down. Mayumi doubts she'll ever feel like herself again. She worries she'll never recover her memories. Dr. Ogasawara explains that her amnesia likely comes from a tsunami, the last great one on Earth. It almost took her life. Mayumi is confused as to why she remembers nothing of this. Dr. Ogasawara says it might be better if she doesn't. Naoki agrees. They all conclude she should focus on the future, not the past. Later, Naoki makes an appearance on a recognized talk show. The host introduces him by stating that he is the first human to stay in space for a long time. She further compliments him for his effort with cytorobotics, which assisted humans in inhabiting the ring. Naoki says that nearly all the people who can afford it have already populated the ring and have migrated from Earth. He believes in a future where Earth's population will be 0, and instead, Earth will be a site of recreation for people. He sees the Earth no longer as a fully occupied home, but a picture in their heads of where things started. Naoki shares a thought on the future of Earth. He believes Earth will always be a special place for humans. Even as many people migrate to space, he predicts that someday, maybe thousands of years from now, humanity will return to Earth as their main home. Later, Mayumi visits Naoki's farm, which is set up indoors with advanced technology. She's fascinated by what she sees and asks Q, a robot, about a certain plant. Q, designed to communicate only through sound and light, signals that the plant matured in just 3 days. Mayumi is amazed. Q can multitask, so Mayumi places the harvested plants on its tray-like head. She asks Q for a meal suggestion. Q makes a whirring sound, but she struggles to understand. She's still learning how to interpret Q's unique signals. As the farm lights dim, Mayumi moves to another area, finding fresh vegetables she can use. She picks some to prepare a meal. In Naoki's automated kitchen, every step is guided by the system. As Mayumi selects an ingredient, the kitchen shows her exactly what to do next. Cooking feels easy with this setup. Once the meal is ready, Mayumi serves it to Naoki. He compliments the aroma, confident it will taste as good as it smells. Naoki takes a bite and is genuinely impressed. He laughs, reminding her that she once got him to start eating spicy foods. Mayumi doesn't remember this, so she just laughs along. She takes a pen from Q and writes it down. She's keeping a record, hoping to piece together her memories over time. Mayumi has also noted other memories, like her wedding with Naoki and the time they moved to a beach house. Determined, she vows to keep searching for her lost memories. She suggests a visit to Earth, thinking it might help her remember. But Naoki hesitates. Only small parts of Earth are safe for humans now. Mayumi insists, and Naoki agrees, though he says it won't happen soon. He's focused on following Dr. Ogasawara's instructions. Years ago, before Naoki and Mayumi were married, they first met when Naoki stumbled into her home during a rainstorm. He had been biking with no particular destination. Mayumi was making a clay vase and welcomed him inside. Her home also served as her pottery studio. Naoki had Q in his bag, and the robot whirred away, as it always did. Mayumi is very interested in Naoki when she realizes he is from Japan. She tries to make him feel at home, which makes Naoki feel welcome. As he walks around, he admires her pottery skills. Naoki picks up a piece he likes and considers buying it. Mayumi tells him it's from a failed project and isn't for sale, but she offers it to him as a gift. In the present, Mayumi leads Naoki to their room and starts kissing him. They lie down together, but as they begin to get closer, Naoki suddenly pulls away. When Mayumi asks why he stopped, he doesn't answer. Later that evening, Mayumi is combing her hair when Naoki enters with a glass of whiskey. She wishes he had brought one for her, but Naoki remarks she wouldn't have wanted it anyway. She jokes that he acts like he knows her better than she knows herself. Naoki agrees, but says she isn't the Mayumi he wants. Then he takes out a sharp object and stabs her on the side of her neck, the same place she felt pain while unloading cargo earlier. Mayumi wakes up because it was all a dream. She finds herself holding the side of her neck, feeling shaken and unable to fall back asleep. And then she wanders around the house all night. When morning comes, she enters the metaspace and meets with Dr. Ogasawara. Mayumi shares details of her dream with Dr. Ogasawara, revealing it was Naoki who stabbed her. Dr. Ogasawara looks surprised, but he tries to keep a calm face, explaining that her PTSD and amnesia are likely causing these dreams, and her condition has now become anterograde. Mayumi argues that the dream felt extremely real, and she senses something might be wrong. Dr. Ogasawara reminds her of Naoki's devotion while she was in a coma. He says it's hard to believe Naoki could harm her after spending so much time and effort on her recovery. He recalls that Naoki cried many times during her coma and only seemed relieved once she woke up. Back at home, Mayumi takes a bath. The water hits her and she starts to experience vivid flashbacks of herself struggling to survive. She remembers holding her neck, bleeding, and feeling real pain in the present. The memory keeps replaying as she continues to bathe. Later that evening, Naoki helps dry her hair with a towel. Mayumi apologizes for seeing the doctor alone. Naoki reassures her, smiling and telling her it's all right. When Mayumi is alone, she wanders into a room full of old belongings, with Kyu observing her. She finds a plate, and holding it brings back another painful memory. In this memory, a man angrily smashes plates on the floor while Mayumi stands helpless. He demands prices for each plate, and when she can't answer, he smashes more. Naoki rushes in and grabs the man, pinning him down. He punches him several times, making the man's face bleed. Naoki ends up with a wound on his hand. With the man taken care of, Mayumi tends to Naoki's hand. She asks him to promise never to fight like that again. The scene had really frightened her. Naoki says he'll always react that way to protect her, but she doesn't want to see him that fierce again. He agrees, saying he'll let Kyu handle it next time. Mayumi searches for other injuries on Naoki. She spots scars from past fights and senses a sad story behind them. She tells him he doesn't have to explain if he doesn't want to. Naoki stays silent, looking sad, and Mayumi begins to kiss him. Back in the present, she keeps searching the room for clues to her memory. She finds a vinyl record and holds it, feeling a familiar tug. Meanwhile, Naoki is studying data with a glass of wine. The information seems to trouble him, and sadness crosses his face. Mayumi plays the vinyl record in her room when Naoki enters. She tells him the music makes her happy. Naoki says he wants to make her even happier, and he suggests they watch the Clair de Lune, a lunar eclipse. Together they go to a viewing spot. Naoki leads her into a small enclosed space with a view of the galaxies. Mayumi is thrilled, saying she wishes she could walk among the stars. Then Naoki steps outside, locking her in. Confused, Mayumi asks him to open the door, but he refuses. He tells her she isn't the Mayumi he wants. Suddenly, he opens the door, leading to space, putting her in danger. Mayumi panics, pleading with Naoki, who stands firm. Driven by survival, she forces open a safe door and escapes. Gasping for breath, she confronts Naoki, but he pulls out a knife and stabs her in the neck. She falls as white foam spills from her wound. Reaching for her neck, Naoki severs a wire, and Mayumi shuts down like a disconnected robot. He returns to his wine, unbothered. Then the scene shifts. Naoki is running in the rain, screaming Mayumi's name. He finds her lifeless body on the ground. He screams until he wakes up. It was just a dream. Later, Naoki meets with Dr. Ogasawara. He explains he discarded the previous version of Mayumi, convinced she was defective and not the real Mayumi. Naoki asks if there was a mistake with her backup file. Dr. Ogasawara assures him it was exact, but Naoki insists something is wrong. He notes that Mayumi wasn't supposed to remember or even like the song she played earlier. Naoki tells Dr. Ogasawara to use the previously saved version to make another Mayumi. Dr. Ogasawara doesn't think it's a good idea, but Naoki doesn't care. He threatens to replace the doctor if he doesn't cooperate. Naoki explains to the doctor why he should use the previously saved version. That version guarantees that Mayumi won't have any more defects. Dr. Ogasawara tells Naoki that any copy of Mayumi created with the previously saved version will not believe the tsunami and coma stories Naoki keeps telling. Naoki doesn't mind. He'd rather tell Mayumi the truth. With a tight fist like someone who's aggravated, Naoki infers that he'll do whatever he wishes with Mayumi. A new version of Mayumi opens her eyes to Naoki's warm welcome, gently easing her into this new home. With a voice layered with calm reassurance, he explains that they'd just returned from their honeymoon, and they were having their backs tattooed when she got in an accident that took her life. Mayumi adjusts to her surroundings over time. She's working on a ceramic piece when Naoki enters, and he playfully tosses a small object her way, causing her to laugh and throw it back. Their brief exchange feels carefree, like they are two kids sharing a moment of simple joy. Afterward, Naoki asks how it feels to be back. Mayumi hesitates, wondering aloud if she's truly enough for him, given she's only a recreation of the original Mayumi. Brushing aside her worries, Naoki suggests a honeymoon to reignite their bond. He guides her through metaspace to a recreated Earth. On Earth, they ride bicycles along lush and winding roads, with each turn filling Mayumi with a vibrant, almost surreal sense of life. For a moment, she feels free. At some point, she drifts into an abandoned bar, where she's hit by a strange sense of familiarity. Her mind lingers on a vivid memory of meeting someone captivating there. His name is Jiab. Naoki eventually finds her and they go to their old apartment. Mayumi feels old memories coming back when they step into the apartment. She walks from room to room, and she starts recognizing details that jog her memory. Naoki asks her questions about the decor and appliances, and she answers with ease. The memories are starting to settle in. The cool droplets from the rain bring another wave of memories. She remembers laughing with Jeeb with their fingers intertwined as they shared quiet moments. Lost in this memory, she calls out Jeeb's name, but realizes she sees Jeeb's face on Naoki's body. It hits her. Jeeb was a significant part of her life that she hadn't fully remembered. Back to the present, Naoki takes off the small screen from his face, feeling uneasy about the memory that has resurfaced. Mayumi tries to speak, but he gently suggests they explore another part of the ring with zero gravity. Floating weightlessly in the vastness of space, Mayumi feels a deep need to be honest. Her memories of Jeeb bring her a clarity she can't ignore, and she admits to Naoki that her connection with Jeeb feels stronger than anything they share. Heartbroken, Naoki's grip tightens, and in an anguished moment, he ends her life. A memory flashes to a time in their marriage when Mayumi tried to express her sadness over Naoki's temper. Naoki defended himself, insisting his anger was only directed at others, never at her. But as he turned away, he knocked something over in frustration. Quietly, Mayumi pointed out the violence, which only deepened his frustration. He stormed through the house, leaving a trail of broken objects, feeling as though her love was slipping away because of someone else. Another day, Mayumi and Jeeb are home, telling themselves how much they love each other. They can't seem to keep their hands to themselves. They begin kissing when Naoki walks into the house and finds them in the act, unknowingly to them. Naoki can't understand what Mayumi has found in someone else, making her stop to love him. Jeeb isn't there anymore, so Naoki confronts Mayumi. He thinks Mayumi is messed up, but Mayumi thinks that Naoki is the messed who is messed up. When Naoki gets angry and walks away from her, Mayumi cries her heart out. Back to reality, Naoki meets Dr. Ogasawara. He tells the doctor to use a previously saved version of Mayumi to make another copy. He wants the doctor to use only the memory of when he first met Mayumi, and then erase the rest, including memories of their marriage and honeymoon. Dr. Ogasawara is done with a new copy of Mayumi and sends her to Naoki. Naoki receives it, repeating another cycle. At dinner, Mayumi refuses to eat. She barely remembers Naoki, and this scares her. She infers that she's been imprisoned, and Naoki tries to make her understand that with time, they'll fall in love again. He also says Mayumi always wanted to be in space, and that's why they're there. Naoki explains that they are married. He says back on Earth, they lived in a beach house before setting out for their honeymoon. Mayumi can't remember any of it, but Naoki tells her not to worry herself too much with their history. Naoki opens up that he's brought back the version of her from before they married. Mayumi doesn't understand why he'd do that. She at least expected he'd bring back the version from when they were married. She questions what Naoki would do if she doesn't fall in love with him this time. Naoki says he's gone the extra mile, having faith that Mayumi will still love him. This time he wants to give Mayumi the chance to choose to love him or not. It's nighttime. After Naoki puts Mayumi to sleep, she asks him if they were happy in their marriage, and Naoki replies that they were. It's the next morning, and Mayumi is awake. She goes over to the mirror to get ready for the day. She opens a drawer to get a comb when she sees a note warning her that Naoki will end her life. Naoki immediately enters the room and Mayumi hides the note. He tells her that he's stepping out and will return late. Mayumi's demeanor gives him concern, but Mayumi promises it's only because she didn't get enough sleep. When Naoki leaves, Mayumi senses she's in danger, so she gets Kyu to assist her in leaving. Kyu had earlier been told by Naoki to always make sure Mayumi is safe, so Kyu doesn't hesitate to follow Mayumi's command. Kyu takes Mayumi to a secure place. While they're there, she thinks Kyu is responsible for the warning note, but Kyu denies it. Mayumi hears the voice of a lady claiming to be responsible for the note. It's a copy of Mayumi that Naoki had discontinued. Mayumi turns around and finds several copies of herself with wounds in their necks. One copy tells Mayumi that Kyu kept saving all of them every time Naoki ended their existence. The copy advises Mayumi to find a way to leave, but Mayumi won't leave without them. The copy explains that since they're one, an escape for one is a win for all the other copies. Mayumi notices that it is Kyu's responsibility to call shuttle deliveries from Earth. It leads to the perfect plan. Before anything else, she asks the other copies to share their memories with her, which they do. One copy shares its memory, and it's a terrible one. While on Earth, after one of their many fights, Mayumi packs her box to leave. Naoki comes to her apologizing, but Mayumi politely turns him down. She pulls her shirt and reveals a glaring scar on her chest. Mayumi is tired of Naoki's apologies. She reckons that it's the same cycle. Hurt her, apologize, and then go back to hurting her again. Mayumi sympathizes with him, that his past trauma must be the reason he always hurts her, but she can no longer stay and help him get better. Naoki's life is empty without Mayumi. He would rather Mayumi end him than she leave him. Mayumi walks out the door with her belongings, striding into the rain. With Mayumi still in the rain, Naoki catches up with her. He's holding a knife, pleading and screaming for Mayumi to come back to him. His pleas, however, fall on deaf ears. Mayumi, scared, moves close to the edge of the bridge. Naoki edges close, and without hesitation, he pushes her. Mayumi falls over the bridge to the stony ground. He's ended her life, but has the audacity to cry about it. Naoki wakes up and goes to the kitchen to find a copy of Mayumi preparing a meal. He's surprised to see her making a particular meal. The latest version of Mayumi shouldn't know how to make because he configured it that way. She checks her neck and finds a scar. This means that she's a copy of Mayumi he had earlier discontinued. The copy then runs away from Naoki's wrath. She runs to the indoor farmhouse, Naoki hot on her trail. He doesn't mind turning the farm inside out in a quest to fish her out. She tries to evade him, but it doesn't last long. Naoki finds her, and she tries to fight her way out by throwing objects at Naoki. Each time she misses. It's almost like he has control over the objects. He boasts that a copy can't harm him, and that's why she keeps missing no matter how hard she throws. He finally catches her and pierces her throat with a knife, ending her life. Naoki takes the elevator to where Mayumi is. Mayumi, who is still gathering memories from the other copies, is told by Kyu that they should be expecting Naoki at any moment. Mayumi immediately tells Kyu to stop the elevator, and Kyu does. Naoki senses it's Kyu's handiwork, so he exits the elevator and climbs the steps to get to Mayumi. The intruder alarm sounds, and Mayumi senses danger, making her pick up a rod for defense. Naoki forces the door open, standing face to face with Mayumi. Mayumi warns Naoki that she now has full knowledge, and this means she knows the horrible things he did to her. Naoki, who doesn't care, charges toward Mayumi, and Kyu knocks him down, inadvertently knocking itself out. The hot chase begins with Mayumi meandering her way through tight spaces. Naoki almost gets a hold of her, but she pushes heavy boxes in Naoki's path, creating obstacles to slow him down. Naoki finally gets a hold of Mayumi in the airlock compartment. He drags her by the hair and pulls her down. With Mayumi still on the floor, whining in pain, Kyu comes to Mayumi's defense. It reminds Naoki that it was programmed to protect Mayumi, and that's exactly what it's doing. Naoki is angry at Kyu, so he picks Kyu up and hits it on the floor. A shuttle is arriving, and the system announces that the airlock will be cleared out. Naoki is surprised that a shuttle is arriving because he hasn't requested any deliveries. Mayumi tells him that she's the one who made the request. The door leading to the airlock opens, and the other copies show up and apprehend Naoki. They drag him inside the airlock. Mayumi picks up the knife and throws it at Naoki. The knife pierces Naoki's heart, and it makes him stagger deep into the airlock compartment. Seeing his life unravel, Naoki screams that Jeeb is the source of all their troubles and pain, but Mayumi disagrees, guiding him through their memories. On Earth, as a married couple, they had dreamed of living in space together, making plans, and enjoying a life full of happiness, until Naoki's temper began to get the best of him and ruin everything. Despite everything, Mayumi's kindness remains. She helps Naoki up, and they walk away from the airlock compartment. But suddenly, Naoki pushes her back inside, locking the door. Moments later, the shuttle departs with Mayumi on board. With nothing left to live for, Naoki accepts his fate. Kyu, now conscious, assists Naoki to the door. Together, they let themselves drift into space, Kyu falling alongside him. Mayumi finds herself on Earth, sitting by the beach side, when Jeeb comes to her, offering her favorite tea. They've missed each other and are grateful to be together again, savoring their time together. Mayumi remarks that she feels like some of her memories are gone for good. Jeeb tells her not to worry about it. Everyone feels that way. They smile gently at each other and enjoy the ambiance of the beach.